Biała depiczarka, taka wiesz, światła, nie? Nie wiem, no tam wiesz, to coś tam światło. Wiesz, jakaś nie puszy. No tak.
Welcome to Bydgoszcz, all of you watching this live recording from the city center. My name is Dawid Urbański and I will be your guide. Today I will have the pleasure to take you for a walk around the city. Since sightseeing is much limited because of coronavirus, the Bydgoszcz Tourist Information Center has organized this virtual walk for you. So let me start with the Old Market Square. Bydgoszcz officially was established in 1346. It was founded, it was given the charter by the Polish king Kazimierz Wielki or Casimir the Great. We are very proud of this fact that we were established by far the greatest of many kings that we had in our long history. In 1346, the king planned or organized the heart of the city, the Old Market Square, exactly at this location. Originally, the Old Market Square was slightly smaller. Why? I will do my best to tell you in a few minutes. Behind me, you see the City Hall, once a school run by the Jesuits, and a building that was for many years covered with a Jesuit church and historic houses that were demolished by the Nazis during the Second World War, during occupation in 1940. Now, the monument to my left, the monument in the corner of the Old Market Square is to commemorate all the victims of the Nazis, all the citizens, all the residents of Bydgoszcz and the region murdered during the Second World War. You see flags next to it. 2 days ago, as you may know, we celebrated yet another anniversary commemorating the end of the Second World War in Europe. Bydgoszcz was actually not that much destroyed in World War II, yet we lost a few monuments because of, let's say, plans of the Nazis then controlling the city. Exactly this way, we lost this Jesuit church, which was with 2 towers, which was definitely a landmark of the city. Why? What were the reasons? To find out, you have to come and visit Bydgoszcz. Now, what is also behind me, apart from those lovely, mostly 19th century houses, historic houses, you see there is as well a clock with 2 faces. You can check the time, Eastern European time, but at the same time on the other side you can check the exact, the local Bydgoszcz time. As you may see, the clock is connected with this line crossing the Old Market Square. It's the 18th meridian, you know, one of those lines going around our planet. That's the 18th meridian east. It connects Bydgoszcz with, among others, with South Africa, with Cape Town, but also with, as you may see here, with Stockholm. The 18th meridian, it's quite interesting that in case of Bydgoszcz, it goes, as you see, it crosses the very old market square. You also see some interesting street furniture scattered around the old market square. Industrial-like furniture. Bydgoszcz once was a powerful center for industry, definitely in the 19th and in the first half of the 20th century. Still, Bydgoszcz is known for its great industrial might, we can say. Now let me take you along, walking along the 18th meridian. Let me take you to one of the buildings. As I've mentioned, most of them comes from the 19th century, yet the one in the corner, the yellow building, it was built at the end of the 18th century. Bydgoszcz then was a Prussian city, and the Prussians built this building for administrative purposes. Now it is the provincial and municipal library, the oldest library in our kujawsko-pomorskie province, established in 1903. Obviously not in this building then. By the way, the library houses some interesting collections. We have more than 100, we have around 100 works that come from the 15th century, from one of the monasteries that then operated or functioned in Bydgoszcz. You also might notice a lovely fountain called Children Playing with a Goose. Originally it was, yes, it was within the Old Market Square, but at a slightly different location, a gift from a wealthy family at the beginning of the 20th century. What family? Why? Well, you have to come to check this, to explore this interesting history. Moving up the stairs of the library, and now in a few seconds you will see behind me an imposing structure, a church, a neo-Gothic church, built at the beginning of the 20th century for the German Protestant community then in Bydgoszcz. And what is interesting is that it was designed by a well-known, prominent German Berlin architect, Heinrich Zilling. What is interesting about he specialized in buildings of theaters, operas, but for some reasons, not still, I believe, clear, he decided to design actually two churches in Bydgoszcz. Bromberg, because at that time when Bydgoszcz was part of Germany, of Prussia and then Germany, that was the name that was used, Bromberg. One more thing about the building of the library, if you look carefully, you will definitely notice two commemorative plaques. The one to my left is here to commemorate the fact that the author of the text of the Polish national anthem, Józef Wybicki, spent some time in Bydgoszcz. Actually, he practiced here to become a lawyer, and that is why this plaque. Now, let me take you along the eastern frontage of the Old Market Square. The buildings you see in front of me, are maybe not that impressive, as they were actually erected after the Second World War. The buildings that once stood here were unfortunately demolished or destroyed during the Second World War once again. However, what I would like you to know about the last building, the corner one, is that once, more or less in this place, once a famous fictional character, one of the most famous Polish sorcerers, came and stayed here for some time. Mistrz Twardowski, or Master Twardowski, a sorcerer who actually made a deal with the devil. He spent some time in Bydgoszcz. He came to Bydgoszcz on a rooster. Yes, on a rooster. What happened? Well, once again, you have to come to Bydgoszcz to discover this, but once in a while, actually, we can come across Master Twardowski. He appears once in a while in the window, in this huge window at the top of the corner building. So he still enjoys visiting Bydgoszcz. Now, I would like to take you along a small, somewhat hidden street called Jatki Street. It's a lovely, covered, pedestrianized street. Obviously, in normal conditions, without coronavirus, it's a bustling place. It's a very busy place, full of citizens, full of guests, tourists. We have here great food. We have here great atmosphere, and at both ends, obviously, we have great views as well. So the Polish cuisine, but not only, some really great food prepared from freshly made ingredients. This is what you may taste here. A small street, but I think we can say kind of a kitchen of Bydgoszcz. So I hope one day you will be able to sit here at one of the tables that normally are here and enjoy your time in Bydgoszcz. Now, what you see behind me, I wanted to say beautiful granaries, but it's a bit covered actually by the car. So let us pass the car to look at the famous granaries. Bydgoszcz, from the very beginning, developed thanks to river, thanks to many goods that were either produced here or simply went through Bydgoszcz. There was a lot of movement on the river in the 14th, 15th century. That is why we, all citizens, merchants, needed proper warehouses. That is why still you can come across, you can see quite a few granaries in Bydgoszcz, once housing grain, flour. Now they house collections, exhibitions of the Leon Wyczółkowski District Museum in Bydgoszcz. And now behind me, you may also notice an imposing, beautiful, magnificent structure of the main post office, this red brick building, so well preserved, built at the end of the 19th century as the post office, and still, well, it serves the same function. It was the time when the Prussians won a huge war with the French, and the French who started the war had to pay a lot of money, had to pay for the damage done to Prussia. So then the Prussians had a lot of funds, a lot of money, and they could invest it also in or within the newly acquired lands after the partition, the first partition of Poland. So when the Prussians actually took over the city. Now, moving on, I would like to take you to the one of the main bridges in Bydgoszcz, walking along Mostafa Street. This bridge obviously was reconstructed after the war. I mean, obviously, it's very wide, as you may see. It's a kind of a new modern structure. Yet, definitely, you will notice that the balustrades, the lamps, they are looking pretty old. A few years ago, the city decided to recreate carefully original balustrades and lamps that once we had on this bridge. So actually a blacksmith was responsible for this great job of recreating all those beautiful ornaments on the bridge. Now behind me, obviously, still you can see the three granaries now, the museum, and at the same time the official symbol. You can find them in the logo of Bydgoszcz. Then in the background you may notice two, let's say, glass or modern granaries. It's an office building. It's a modern office building that actually has won many national, international awards. So nicely placed here, and with this great reference to the past of the city. On water, you will notice now, you can see a barge, a huge barge without engine, actually that operated here for many years. What is more, it was built here in Bydgoszcz in 1937. Now, yes, a museum once again. It could, originally, it could take the cargo of more than 200 tons. Now you can explore the place, and soon you will be able to do it and to see what the life on water in the past looked like. And obviously now you see kind of a new symbol of Bydgoszcz, the sculpture. It's called Crossing the River. It was placed here on the 1st of May 2004. So yes, as you may, or some of you may guess, it was to commemorate the Polish entrance into accession into the European Union. Crossing the river, a tightrope walker. It's so interesting that it's still in the same position, no matter what perhaps, or how strong the wind blowing here is. How is it possible? Well, once again, you have to come to Bydgoszcz to learn this, to find out for yourselves. Before we get to the river, behind me you may see a lovely building, a corner building, an eclectic building designed by Józef Święcicki. I believe the most famous architect operating in Bydgoszcz in the past. He designed more than 60 beautiful historic houses in the city. A very interesting person, a kind of a Renaissance type of a man. A person who for many years we didn't know what he looked like. Now we know. We also know that he wrote a mini guide to the city. So he was kind of a guide, and definitely, as me, he was fully in love with this place. Now, getting to the river, going down the stairs, there is a chance for me now to tell you a bit more about the river, about the history connected with the Brda River. Bydgoszcz is located, is placed conveniently on the Brda River, but also on the Vistula River, on the Bydgoszcz Canal, the oldest still operational waterway of this kind. We have quite a few canals as well. Some people even call Bydgoszcz Venice. Now, this guy here with me, the raftsman, it is here, yes, to commemorate, to remind us about the great role that this river, the Brda River, especially played in the development of Bydgoszcz. From the very beginning, the city was located, or the settlement, even before Bydgoszcz was officially located by Kazimierz Wielki, there was a wooden settlement not that far away from here on the Brda river. So from the very, very beginning, Bydgoszcz developed thanks to this lifeline. What was perhaps exported or went down the river at that time, in medieval times? Well, wax, grain, timber, but also beer. That was immensely popular at one point. We still have some local breweries producing really good quality local beer. So once again, to taste, to experience this, you have to come to this city on the Brda River. Now on my left, your right, you can see an island, a small island, St. Barbara's Island. It is an artificial island with this patron. Obviously, many of you may know that she was the patron of miners, but not that many know that she is the saint patron of all those working on the river and thanks to the river. So, for example, raftsmen. Now, exactly on the same side, somewhat behind the small island, you will in a few seconds see the oldest building fully preserved in Bydgoszcz, the Bydgoszcz Cathedral of Saint Martin and Saint Nicholas. It's the oldest building fully preserved, so obviously at the same time the oldest church. Here from this side, from the riverside, you see the only chapel that survived through centuries, a lovely Renaissance chapel. And you see that this is a late Gothic building of brick, built from brick, something that is typical of the Gothic style in Poland. A beautiful church, as you see, yet another building, another structure, landmark of Bydgoszcz, seated on the river Brda. A lot of treasures inside the church. Well, to explore it once again, you have to visit Bydgoszcz. Let me just tell you about perhaps the most precious item within this church. It is the painting in the high altar, Madonna with a rose. That's what we call the painting. It's a Gothic painting. There's a beautiful image of Madonna. It's worshipped definitely here, but I think not only in Bydgoszcz. A great painting with really fascinating history. As some of you may know, the leading Nazis, the most important Nazis, they somewhat competed to get as much as possible, to get many precious pieces of art. So obviously they would have stolen the painting if it hadn't been for the citizens and the priest. What happened? How the painting survived the Second World War and stayed here? Well, once again, you have to be our guest. You have to come. The last thing about the cathedral is that in the interwar period, it was beautifully painted with some bright colors. I mean, all the walls on the interiors. Something some of you may know from St. Mary's Church, from the St. Mary's Church in Krakow. But here in this part of Poland and in many countries in Europe, such polychrome, modernistic polychrome, such colors, this is more than unusual. So once again, yet another reason to come and visit Bydgoszcz. Now, in front of me, in a few seconds, you will be able to see yet another building, a monumental one, a modernistic piece of architecture, the Opera House. Opera Nova, one of 10 opera houses in Poland, a huge building with long history. Actually, it took them, the authorities, especially the communist authorities at that time, because they started around 1973. So it took them more than 30 years to complete the structure. Now, the Opera House, but also a conference venue. Yes, and now here you are looking at a painting by Leon Wyczółkowski, the patron of our district museum, a great painter from the 19th century. We have a number of his paintings, his drawings in one of our museums, but also you see, you may come across his paintings just strolling, walking around the city center. The Opera House, it's so picturesquely located, not only on the Brda River, but actually on seated in this place where the Brda River changes its direction. And now you see, walking on this small bridge, footpath, we are entering, yes, now you can see we are entering, some may say, the kind of a second heart of Bydgoszcz, that is Mill Island. A huge 6-hectare space area, located just a few steps from the old market square where we started. So kind of a second heart of Bydgoszcz, a green, lovely green space, something quite unique, a huge river island full of, well, now museums, restaurants, bars, obviously. There's a lot of space for the citizens to relax, to have fun, to play with children. So there is a lot to do now, but in the past it was the industrial part of the city. Now, in front of me you have already noticed a huge red brick structure, half timbered structure of the so-called Rotters Mill, built around 1848, 1849, a huge structure, actually two mills, two granaries and one mill put together, one of the biggest of this type at that time. Now, actually a few years ago, the building, no longer operating as a mill, was bought by the city council, and now it is being renovated and it is being adapted to be an interactive museum. What ultimately will be placed there, you will find out when you visit Bydgoszcz. Behind this imposing structure, you may see kind of a wave coming out of water. It's the Bydgoszcz Marina, so it's a place where you can stay in a hotel, when you can leave your vessel, your boat. Yes, you can come to Bydgoszcz through E70 International Waterway, and that's definitely a place where you may have to, or you may want to stay. On my left, your right, you see the so-called wide granary, the oldest structure on Mill Island. Once a mill, now it houses the Leon Wyczółkowski District Museum and exhibitions connected, associated with what has been discovered under the ground. So a lot of interesting items, stories connected with archaeology of Bydgoszcz and the region. And talking about treasures, last year there was a real genuine treasure discovered in the Bydgoszcz Cathedral. To find out more about this, once again, be our guest. So slowly, gradually coming to an end of our walk, our virtual tour, let me tell you about yet another structure, no longer here with us on Mill Island, but once that would be the most important factory, or the most important place of all those factories or workshops, dye works, distilleries located on Mill Island. In this white building now, we have this European Center for coins, for money. Why? Because once this place was occupied by the Royal Mint. A lot of silver, gold was used here to produce coins. At one point in history, it was the only Royal Mint in then huge Poland. And I believe the most fascinating story associated with this place, with Mill Island, with the Royal Mint, is actually the history of a coin. It's a coin. Let me show you, perhaps. Obviously, it's not that I have this coin in my wallet, no. Very few coins survived, such coins. It's called 100 ducats of Sigismund III Vasa, a Polish-Swedish king. And in 1621, when we defeated the Turks in the south, the king decided to commemorate the most important noblemen, soldiers, knights, right, commanders, and ordered the Royal Mint in Bydgoszcz on Mill Island to produce such gold coins of this size, 7 centimeters in diameter. So this makes this coin perhaps the biggest gold coin in the history of Europe. Just a few survived, and you can find them in museums, unfortunately not in Bydgoszcz, and private collections all over the world. Let me just tell you that one such gold coin, beautiful gold coin, last year, at the end of last year, was sold at an auction for slightly over $2 million. So obviously this made it the most expensive Polish coin in our long history. We in Bydgoszcz have in one of the museums we have an interesting hologram of Sigismund III Vasa, of the king, actually talking about himself and this magnificent piece of art, this beautiful coin. So now the last, perhaps the last moments together. You see the yet another mill. Now, once again, a museum, collections of contemporary art. What is interesting, in the past there was water actually going down here, separating one part of the island from the city and from, because originally actually it was not one island but 3 islands that the Prussians put together. So still we have some water going down here in the summer in this lovely canal, but actually in the past water went down here and would go under the building. The first steam engines were placed here on Mill Island, the first ones, so obviously those engines needed a lot of water, so to cool them down. And now you see a huge green area, and you see more and more people coming here to have some great time in the city center of Bydgoszcz. So I do hope that you had some good time, some great time with us here today. But obviously we just can't wait to have you here as soon as this pandemic is over. So I believe that's all from me. Thank you for being with us. Hopefully see you soon. Yes. I would like to say hello to all of you, obviously, but especially to all the citizens of Bydgoszcz partner cities, especially Perth in Scotland, the twin city of Bydgoszcz. I know that some of you are watching us today, so once again, I do hope that you had some good time with us. See you soon.